Please be sparkly, please be sparkly. Well, what do we have here? After several collections in a row of being absolutely trolled by Looxi, I just got in their latest collection that dropped at the end of March, and they look sparkly. With the past collection, I could tell the second I saw them in the pan that they were likely not going to be that dramatic on the eyes, but these, at least a couple of them, seem to have some promise. But we're gonna do eye swatches of all 10 new shadows, and we'll get to the bottom of this. Is Looxi back, or is Looxi just like doing a further nosedive into the dumpster or whatever? If you're new here, I'm Hannah. I love super sparkly indie eyeshadows. I eye swatch all of Looxi's new collections. I've been doing that for several years now, so if you're interested in this type of thing, join along and let's get into the eye swatches. Looxi always feels like they're just doing their own thing, but this collection makes me feel like they're at least aware of the trends and making decisions accordingly. I feel like interesting neutrals, spicy neutrals, whatever you want to call them, have been very popular recently, and this collection is very neutral heavy, with also several greens. I am most excited about these 4 in here, but I feel like I might start with the others just to like leave something, like build up to something. So I'm gonna start with the 2 lightest shades. This one is Pretty Little Thing. It's described as a metallic light beige with shifts of gold, bluish green, and reddish pink. Something that I did notice about these right off the bat, the past Looxi collections that have not gone over very well have been very dry. Their formula for several years leading up to this sudden change has been more of a dimethicone feel, a little bit more of like an emollient touch to them. And I've noticed that this collection that I just opened, some of them have oil spots on the back. I don't know if it's just someone's fingers putting the stickers on or whatever, but I have found that with some brands that have more soft shadows, you'll see the oil seeping into like the palette packaging surrounding it. So that makes me feel like this is going to be a return, or I don't know, it's going to be a more moist feeling, and we'll see if it's the same dimethicone moistness that we've known and enjoyed from Looxi for some time now. I feel like I always like trick you and myself. I like zoom in and we're like about to do eye swatches and then I just have more to say. Sorry, let's do it now. I'm so nervous. Oh, this feels pretty dry. Yeah, this feels exactly like their recent ones have. It does look pretty on my finger. My consensus about the last collection was that it's not show-stopping eyeshadows like we've occasionally gotten from Looxi in the past, but they are fine shadows, and that's what this looks like to me, but I am a little bit disappointed to feel that it feels just like the last collection. Yeah, went on easily, feels very thin. This is like my eyelid color, but better. Yeah, not starting off very strong. It does have a little bit of a nice duochrome to it. I like that it looks different out of the light than it does in direct light. I feel like this is an easy shade. This is like a very work-appropriate shade. You want to wear something a little bit fun, but you don't want it to be noticeable or look, I don't know, juvenile, if that's the, you know, culture of the office. I feel very similar to this as I did about the neutrals in the last collection. It's okay. The next shadow is Riz, which is described as a metallic mauve with shifts of turquoise and gold. This one, in the swatches on their website, it looks really shifty. I think we've all learned our lesson by now that you can't trust Looxi's swatches on their website, but that looks so pretty. But this, the texture in the pan looks very similar to this one, so yep, feels just like that one. Ugh, that's such a bummer. I mean, still, these didn't look like the most sparkly of the collection, so there might still be hope yet. Oh, and I do like the tone of this one. Okay, this is why I love having 2 on my eyes at once, and I always try to match up the most similar colors, because this is so much more dramatic looking than this. It is possible that on someone with a deeper skin tone, this would come up more like this one on them. It's just that this is darker than my skin tone, that it has more of a contrast. But this does feel like something a little bit fresh from them. I can't think of another shade that I have that's just like this. And I think the contrast between the light shimmer that you get in the light to the darkness of when it's out of the light, that is cool. I still think this is like a work appropriate shade. It's not like a showstopper. This has potential to me. This I feel like could be pretty in a look. I could also deepen it up with some more mattes. I could add a shimmery topper on top. I mean, I could do that for any of the less sparkly shades anyway, but I'm excited to play around with this one. This one was Riz. I'm gonna remember that. Okay, let's move on to the couple more greeny looking ones. This one is called Extra, which to me looks like a green. It looks like an antiqued olive type of shadow, but it's described as a metallic taupe with shifts of silver and purple. You may have noticed, it doesn't say green at all in that description, so I'm curious how this will go. Huh. Alright, this one does have the dry feel, but it has more texture than the other two. Like, it picked up more on my finger, and I think you could see that here, that it's just a little bit bolder than the other ones looked on my finger. Okay. You know, I'm prone to be less impressed by this. I'm not the biggest green eyeshadow person, and I feel like we've seen shadows similar to this from Looxi. They've probably discontinued whatever that similar shadow is, because it seems like they've been discontinuing everything. But I will say I like this. This has more drama than the last two did. I still see green. I think it looks like a very muted olive shimmer with like a warm bronze base to it. It is pretty. I think on the eye it looks like it could be one of their older formulas, but I don't think I'll get a lot of use out of it because the color isn't very me. Next up is Viper, and this one they're calling green. It's described as a metallic, vibrant olive green with shifts of golden yellow and dark green. In the pan, the formula, again, looks pretty similar to what we've been having. We haven't encountered one that looks extra sparkly in the pan yet. Oh, this one feels harder pressed than the other ones. Yeah, it has like less textural pickup than the last one did, and it's glides on my eye a little bit less easily. That is a pretty color. Yeah. Although I'm not a big green person, I do like weird colors, and I feel like this is very like olive meets chartreuse, and I like that about it. Yeah, definitely some formula issues that I don't love. I don't love that dry feel right off the bat. I don't love it not sliding on my eyelid that easily, but I feel like it looks a little radioactive in color. And a good color can redeem a shadow for me. I'm more willing to work with a color that intrigues me, and I'm feeling intrigued by this color. I don't think I have anything just like this. I feel like I have chartreuses that are more bright, and I feel like I have a lot of greens that are either more green or more brown, but I like this one. I like this one because of the color, and the formula is like fine enough. Okay, we've made it to the moment where I'm either going to be impressed or very disappointed. This one looks shiny. This one is Highkey. Let me show you what I mean by it looking shiny in the pan. This is the previous one we just watched, Viper. Highkey just looks more like textured, more reflective. There's more variance in the color in the pan too, which generally says to me it's going to be more sparkly because it's already like reflecting light differently in here. It's described as a metallic foiled emerald green with shifts of dark green, blue, and gold. Moment of truth. Okay, yeah, this is definitely softer. It still doesn't have the feel of their old dimethicone ones, but it definitely felt a lot softer and less powdery when I picked it up. It definitely was a powder, but it didn't have that like tiny individual particle feel of powder, if you know what I mean. I like how this one feels, but I don't like how it looks as much. I think this is just my green bias speaking, because really, it looks like a fine shadow. It has a lot of presence on the eye, which is something that I'm always looking for. I want it to really stand off of my face, and I feel like this one does. The base of it almost looks like a black base multichrome. I feel like black base multichromes around the edges look like dark, uneven powder, and I'm kind of seeing that in here. That's not my favorite either, because that to me says I'm going to have to use more mattes to balance out the base of it. So keep that in mind. I think I feel similarly about this as I did about the first green. It's a fine shadow. If this is like a color you're looking for, I think it's a fine formula. It's just not necessarily for me. Okay, the next shade before we get into the four kind of mid-toned, really sparkly looking ones is Deadpan, which is the darkest one of the bunch. It's described as a metallic dark taupe brown with shifts of silver and green. I feel like in the pan, it looks like a very deep, like cool toned, like chromy, silvery gray. And it doesn't look as shiny. Oh, this one has a very different feel. This one feels slick. It almost has that like wet rock feeling where you don't really feel the particles coming up, but it looks very intense on my finger, which is promising and exciting. Huh. Yeah, I feel like it looks like a slimy shadow, but it didn't even have that dimethicone feeling. Like, it feels like nothing I've ever felt before from Looxi, and I actually like this a lot more in the eye than I did in the pan. It seems like there's like a burgundy base in here, which is really interesting. I love shadows that have a big contrast in them. I love shadows that have both warm and cool colors within them, and this seems to be that. It looks like a burgundy base around the edges, but like throughout most of the shadow, it's like a very warm, dark brown. And then the sparkle on top is more of like a cool toned gray. This is very interesting. I don't tend to wear shadows this dark on a daily basis, but I'm intrigued and I feel like I definitely want to try a look with this. All right, Looxi. Yeah, I'm into this. I think this is my favorite one so far. It's bold, it's different, it's unique. That's what I'm looking for. I like it. Okay, we're on to the final four, these four right here. I'm so excited about them. I will say, I mentioned before that a lot of them have like a little bit of oil on the bottom, which you normally see like in palettes when it like seeps out. Like here's one of them. I think you could see all those like darker oil spots. It must be because of that also. They're sliding less nicely in the pan. Like I feel like that oil kind of gets it caught a little bit. Really a minor complaint, but just saying what I experience. Let's do this one that I just picked up. This one is called Mama Tried. It's described as a foiled gold with shifts of orange and red. I am excited about the formula, but I will say the color, I'm nervous is going to look like a lot of other shadows. Oh, this one feels just like that last one. It's like soft, but it's also almost squishy. Like when I touch it, it feels like my finger could keep going in more. Very different feeling, but that looks so pretty. Yeah, very soft, glides on. Oh, I do like this. You know, like warm, bronzy golds aren't really like my everyday thing, but I love this base in here. Like I feel like this reads more like a color on my eyes and less like a neutral, because that base looks like it teeters the line between like a fiery orange and a tomato red, and then the shimmer in the forefront is just like bright gold. Okay, yeah, Mama tried and Mama's getting there. Mama's getting somewhere. I've been thinking recently about decluttering a lot of my older Looxi shadows, my like several years old Looxi shadows that are no longer available, because I have this idea in my head that I have like everything already covered by Looxi already. And like, you know, some of them I do, but some of them I think are better in my head than they are in person. But I feel like this is a shadow that I'm excited to have replace some older, less exciting gold that I have from them. And hopefully these collections that are coming out now will stay around for a while. And then this can kind of be like a comparison point for future collections. I don't know if this has just been a little confusing side point, but I feel like this is a good Looxi shadow. I'm excited that they made this and I'm excited that I own this. I'm like ready to update my collection with how Looxi's updated in a way. This next one is called IYKYK, if you know, you know. Hopefully this will be a little hidden Looxi secret. It's described as a metallic golden caramel with shifts of pink, copper, and orange. I feel like the swatches that they have on the website for this one don't look as impressive. Like, my hopes aren't the highest for this one, but let's see. I'm curious if it'll feel the same. No, this one feels more powdery than the last two. It's a pretty bronze without being too golden. I feel like a lot of bronzes have a lot of gold to the sparkle in them, and the sparkles in this almost feel like cool toned. Like, it feels like all of the yellow was like dialed down in it. So yeah, it feels like a solid shade. This almost feels more in the category of those first couple, like, safe work shades. It's a pretty standard bronze. If you wanted a pretty easy bronze in your collection, Looxi shadows are inexpensive. I think this one's okay. But if you have a large collection of single shadows like I do, I don't think this one's going to be a front runner. Okay, we're down to the final two. This next one is called Sus. And to my eye, it almost looks like a pinky purpley base with like bronze brown shimmer to it. It's described as a metallic gold with shifts of rose pink and purple. So this one could be cool. This one could be like a little bit more of a deviation from, you know, the neutral browns. It feels somewhere in between the more powdery formula and the more like finger sinks into it formula, which maybe, I don't know, maybe it's good. Maybe it'll be easy to work with. Oh. Huh. This is interesting. I feel like I can see the purple to it, like especially here. I feel like the purple in the base is so apparent, but also from more of a distance, it does look more like a standard neutral. And I think that type of thing is what categorizes a shadow for me as an interesting neutral. It's like, it's harder to put your finger on what it is and it's more unique. Yeah, I like it. I don't love it, but I respect it. It reminds me of like a peanut butter and jelly. And maybe that's throwing me off. Like, I'm so not used to purple and brown together. It's colors that I wouldn't think to pair them together in an eyeshadow look. I wouldn't think to wear them together, but I like that it's something that I haven't seen before. I can't think of seeing it before, at least in these tones of purple and brown. It's not the boldest shade. It doesn't totally stand off of my face. Maybe that makes it also more of like an office shade, but it's a little bit more exciting than some of the other office shades. Yeah, I think this one's nice. I don't love it, but I do like it. I feel like it's the type of shadow also that because it's like an interesting neutral, I could really come around to it. I could see that too. And now for the final shade, it's going to be Dark Horse. I will say I have the website pulled up on my phone as I'm doing this so I can like read the descriptions or whatever, and I always like to put similar colors together so you can see the differences, and I know sometimes on the website it's hard to tell what the difference is if they look the same in the pan. I just want to say that Dark Horse and Deadpan, I feel like on the website look very similar, but they look very different in person. Deadpan, this is the one that had like the little bit of the burgundy base to it. It looks so gray in the pan, and Dark Horse I think looks more of like a cool toned brown, and this one looks like a cool toned gray in the pan. I don't know. Thought that could be helpful to point out. Dark Horse in the pan, I can see little like multicolored sparkles to it, and I love shadows that have different colored sparkles, so hopefully that like translates onto the eye. It's described as a metallic mauve with shifts of light gold and purple. So we have another purple mix neutral. This one has that same soft formula, maybe even a little bit more soft, because I feel like some little clumps of the powder came up on my finger. I'm not concerned about that, like when it goes onto the eye, I think it'll smooth out right away, but just to show you, it picks up a little bit heavier on the finger. Oh yeah, that flake just fell off. Huh. I was hoping this one would look a little bit more interesting. Maybe I'm seeing a little bit of the pink sparkle. It's kind of hard to tell because I've removed so many shadows from this eye already that sometimes by the end of these videos, it's hard to tell what got deposited this time and what's just like, you know, the subtlest leftover residue from past shades. But let me know what you think. I feel like I can see a little bit of pink sparkle to it. It's pretty. It's a pretty neutral. I think my hopes were a little high for this one. The base just looks like, you know, like a warm, mid-toned brown. The sparkle on top is more of like a cool brown. If I can identify sparkles in it, I'll like it more. Right now I feel a little bit like it's a nice shadow, but I'm not like itching to wear it, you know? I can't even decide which one of these I like better. I feel like I'm feeling kind of similar about the two of them, that like they're nice, but they're just not speaking to me like I wish they were. But they're nice. They're fine. I guess this one's a little bolder, and I guess I like that. Yeah. Yeah, they're fine. I'm gonna do a look with one of these and come back. I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do, but I will figure it out, and we'll be back in a second. Okay, here is the finished look. I'm going to tell you about this look, but allow me to start with two pieces of relevant background information. One piece of information is that when Looxi launched this collection on March 30th, I think it was, they also restocked their mattes for the first time in a really long time. So here's the new mattes that I picked up, and I'm working on like testing them out. So then soon I'll be able to do a video with these mattes and the mattes that I've had and loved for years and talk about all of that. The other piece of background information is that as I was doing the eye swatches, I was like, wow, I can't believe my eyelids don't hurt. And then I removed the shadows that I had last swatched. And the second I went to put primer on, it was so painful to spread the primer on my eyes. So with all that being said, I decided to use that mucky radioactive chartreuse olive called Viper all over my eyes. So I wanted to pair it with some of my new Looxi mattes to try them out. So I picked up Spiced Lemon and I went into my crease with it. And you know, when you get new mattes, there's always a learning curve. You try things out, you see if they work or not. So I learned from doing this that Spiced Lemon is too deep for me to just go right into my crease with. It wasn't blending very nicely, and had it been under normal circumstances, I would have just wiped it off and went in with a lighter color and then blended Spiced Lemon into it, but because my eyelids hurt so much, I didn't want to then remove it. So I tried to do a little damage control. I blended some of the yellow higher in the crease, but all of this to say, that's why the crease looks kind of messy, just because I'm learning how to work with the new mattes. Viper on the eyes, I have some mixed feelings about. I do think it makes an overall grungy look. I think with the messiness of the mattes, the colors of the mattes, the colors of the lid, I feel like from a distance, it looks really like, yeah, cool and grungy. But I also think seeing it all over my eyes in this look shows to me that the shimmer isn't that shiny. It does remind me of some older shimmers that I used to have before the like really PC sparkle indie shadows came into my life. So make of that what you will. I used Lightspeed from Terra Moons on my inner corner, and I used more Spiced Lemon on my lower lash line. I really like it for there. I feel like it was the perfect amount of pigment for my lower lash line. Okay, so I'm going to go through and swatch them all. I put them in a general order from my least favorite to my favorite, but again, very general. It was hard to precisely rank them also because I feel like there's a couple distinct different formulas, and like I remember being slightly impressed by the second one, but I haven't seen the second one swatch at the same time as like the 9th one. So I tried my best, and hopefully this will give like a general idea of how I'm feeling about the collection right now. For the bottom two, I have the two greens that I was less excited about, Highkey and Extra. Extra was that one with like the brown base to it. Highkey is more of like a bright green with what seems to be like traces of a black base. Actually, if I was being more precise, which I'll probably notice ways I could be more precise as I'm swatching these next to each other, I probably would put Highkey in last place and this one slightly above it. Then we have Pretty Little Thing. This was the first one I swatched, and touching this after knowing what the rest of them feel like, this one does feel very dry, almost sandy. Then we have If You Know, You Know, and Dark Horse. Both of these I put in the bottom 5 because they're less interesting neutrals. But seeing these all swatched right now, I'm like, Dark Horse, it does look a little interesting. So I'm curious how I'll feel about it stacked up next to the top 5. Kicking off the top 5 is Riz. This one, as I said, I was a little unsure about where to put it just because I had a pretty positive reaction to it, but I hadn't seen it in a while. And I will say the formula, it feels less sandy than that first one did, and seeing it with the other swatches, I feel like it is in the right spot. Like, of these, I'd be most excited to grab this one. Then we have Viper, the one that's on my eyes. Yeah, I think you could see from the swatch it being a little bit less sparkly than some of the other ones. And that's something I'm kind of contending with my eyes too, but I like the color, and a good color goes a long way. Next is Sus, our little peanut butter and jelly interesting neutral. Still haven't totally wrapped my head around it, but I'm excited to try it in a look and see. Then we have Deadpan. I have a feeling that swatch-wise, this is going to be the one that I'm most excited about. I mean, look at that. I bet if someone was like, guess which one isn't $3, they would guess this one. But I was reluctant to put it into first place because I feel like it's a type of shadow that's impressive in a swatch, but isn't going to fit into my makeup routine nicely. Time will tell. And then the one I put into first place is Mama Tried. I do think this is the one that feels the best in the pan. It feels like nice and textured, but silky. It's the gold with an orangey red base. And I think you can see also in these 10 swatches why this one's up here. It really is holding its own, has a very clear duochrome and a lot of sparkle to it. So my final impressions are that this is a pretty solid collection compared to a lot of their most recent collections where it really felt like they were trolling us. Nothing here is bad. I might have said that last time also, but I will say these are better than last time. Last time they felt like a bunch of satins, a bunch of like lower lash line shades, and these, I think all of them looked good on my lid. The differences in ranking are mostly because of preferences and colors and not like some formulas just absolutely sucking. I will say if you're someone that's only enjoyed Looxi shadows that are on like the sparkliest part of the spectrum of Looxi shadows, I'd probably only recommend maybe the top 3, Sus, Deadpan, and Mama Tried. But I do feel like the rest of them are as sparkly as like some of my Clionus shadows are. You know, like not every Clionus shadow is maximum sparkliness. And I feel like all of these are for the most part a sufficient amount of sparkle, maybe with the exception of this one that I have on my eyes, Viper, and Pretty Little Thing, which is the first one that I tried. Also, to reiterate something that I was mentioning in the past, their more dimethicone shades would always crease on me, and I wouldn't wear them if I was going out for the whole day with my makeup done, but the more powdery shadows that they've had more recently do last on me longer. So I'm wondering if these are going to be a bit of a compromise where they're not as powdery as their really powdery ones, but they're not as dimethicone as their really dimethicone ones. If this new formula lasts on my eyes for like 6 hours, I'll say, I'd be happy. I will definitely keep you informed about that. I wasn't going to do comparisons, but I'm going to very quickly and casually just give a couple of comparisons that just seemed kind of the most obvious. But I will say, I've been hearing that the older Looxi shadows aren't the same as they used to be. So like you'll purchase angel wings and it's not necessarily the same angel wings that I have in my collection from several years ago. That's something that I do plan to do a video about soon when a future package gets to me. But for now, these couple of quick comparisons, I'm just gonna kind of give them as like reference points. Again, they were like the most obvious ones that I saw in my collection, and maybe it could be helpful if you already have the one that I'm swatching against it, but not necessarily to purchase the other one, you know? So next to Dark Horse and Riz, I want to swatch Angel Wings, a cult classic favorite from Looxi. So you can see Angel Wings is much lighter than those two, but it does have a similar reflect to this one, but Riz has a darker base. They're not dissimilar in vibes though. And then next to Extra, I'm gonna swatch Rocky Road. This shadow is quite old. Rocky Road looks straight up orange in comparison, which I wasn't expecting. Next to Viper, I'm going to swatch Peacock. I don't think this one's been on the website for some time now, but this seemed like it might be a bright enough green. No, this one's way more bronzy. Viper really maintains that green. This is almost like a bolder Rocky Road. And then next to Mama Tried, I'm gonna swatch Many Moons. This one was one of the better ones from their fall release, but it wasn't my favorite color. I think you can see that Mama Tried is a bit deeper, has more of a contrast in the base. And I think that small difference makes me like it a lot more. That's gonna be everything for today. If you enjoyed this, I hope you'll give me a thumbs up and subscribe. It really means a lot to me. I also have a Patreon I'll have linked down below and a fashion channel I'll have linked down below. Thank you so much for being here. Bye.